the young and the restless spoilers. Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today's an absolutely wild day in the soap world. And honestly, we have so much to unpack that I don't even know where to begin. Grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and let's dive right into this absolute mess of an episode. So, Kyle and Diane finally reunite. And it was a beautiful moment, honestly. I was sitting here watching them hug and thinking, okay, maybe the Abbotts can actually have 5 minutes of peace for once in their lives. Diane has been trapped in that creepy house with the bars on the windows for weeks now, with Dr. Markham just gaslighting her into oblivion, telling her she had a mental breakdown and that Jack authorized her captivity. And Kyle has been running around Genoa City like a chicken with its head cut off looking for her, defending her honor to Detective Burrow, completely unaware of the actual danger she was in. So when they finally saw each other, it was pure emotion. You could just feel the relief radiating off the screen. I mean, Kyle looked like a little boy getting his mom back, and Diane just looked so broken but so happy. But let's be real, this is the young and the restless. Happiness has an expiration date of about 2 seconds on this show. And of course, the reunion didn't last, because immediately the panic sets in. Where is Jack? Diane knows Jack is in danger because she knows Markham wasn't working alone, and she knows how twisted this whole setup is. And Kyle knows Jack was dealing with Patty Williams. Patty freaking Williams, you guys. Why does anyone in this town ever underestimate her? So Kyle and Diane go from crying happy tears to full-on panic mode in the blink of an eye. They start frantically searching for Jack, and the tension in this sequence was just off the charts. I was literally biting my nails watching them run around, knowing that Patty was out there spinning completely out of control. So they are running around, desperate and breathless. And then they see it. The absolute worst case scenario unfolding right in front of their eyes. They spot Jack, but he's not alone. Patty is there. And before anyone can even scream or react or do anything to stop it, Patty plunges a knife right into Jack's stomach. Just right in there. No hesitation. I honestly couldn't believe what I was watching. Jack Abbott, the patriarch, the man who has survived so much corporate warfare and family drama, just taking a blade to the gut from the woman who has been obsessed with him for decades. The visual was just shocking. And the blood, there was so much blood. Jack's expression was just pure shock, his eyes going wide as he looked down at the knife and then looking up at Patty's completely deranged face. Patty didn't even look remorseful in that split second. She just looked like a woman whose entire twisted fantasy had collapsed, leaving nothing but violent rage. Jack just starts bleeding heavily, staggering back, and you can hear Diane let out this gut-wrenching scream. It was one of those screams that just chills you to the bone. Diane drops to her knees the second Jack hits the ground, her hands covered in his blood as she tries to apply pressure to the wound, sobbing and begging him to hold on. But Kyle? Oh man, Kyle just snaps. I mean, wouldn't you? He just got his mom back from a terrifying kidnapping, and now his dad is being murdered right in front of him. Kyle doesn't even think. He doesn't hesitate. He just lunges. Patty tries to run away, pulling the knife out and turning to flee the scene of the crime. But Kyle is sprinting after Patty like an absolute madman. He is not the polished Jabot executive in a tailored suit right now. He is just a son, watching his father die, and he is out for blood. And Kyle actually catches her. He tackles Patty, and chaos completely erupts. It was just a messy, brutal struggle on the ground. Patty is fighting like a cornered wild animal, thrashing and kicking, but Kyle is running on pure adrenaline and rage. He is trying to restrain her, and he is not holding back at all. He is furious. And I have to say, seeing Kyle get physical like this is kind of shocking. He actually hits Patty. Yeah, you heard me. Kyle hits her. He strikes her hard enough to genuinely terrify her. And part of me was like, whoa, Kyle, that's crossing a line. You can't just beat up a mentally ill woman. But then I pulled myself back and thought, well, she just stabbed his dad. So maybe I'm being too harsh on Kyle. Okay, that sounded dramatic, but you get what I mean. If someone stabbed your dad and was trying to get away, you probably wouldn't be gentle either. Kyle manages to overpower her and tie her up, or at least get her pinned down so hard she can barely move. He is just panting, his eyes wild, screaming at her for what she just did. And while all this absolute insanity is happening, Doctor, Markham just slithers away, He literally just bolts from the scene, which makes me so mad. I wanted him to get caught so badly. Who even is this guy? The fans on social media have been screaming that Markham is actually Martin Laurent with a new face. And honestly, I buy it 100%. The books by Alan Laurent in Diane's room? It's too much of a coincidence. And remember, Patty knows exactly how to manipulate the medical system and get plastic surgery to steal an identity. She did it years ago to become doctor. Emily Peterson. She probably coached Martin on how to do it. But Markham manages to escape the chaos while Kyle is busy wrestling with Patty and Diane is trying to keep Jack's insides on the inside. So Markham is in the wind, which means Phyllis and Sharon are definitely going to get dragged into this mess later. Because if it is Martin, those two are the only ones who can take him down. But it's just so frustrating watching him slip away into the shadows while the Abbott family is being destroyed. But let's get back to the main event, because the nightmare wasn't over. Kyle has Patty pinned. He's hit her. He's scared her. Patty is actually terrified now. You can see the crazy in her eyes shifting into pure, desperate panic. She desperately wants to escape. She's like a trapped animal. And when Patty Williams is trapped, she is at her most dangerous. We all know this. How many times has she faked her death or poisoned someone or shot someone? Too many times to count. The writers just love using her as the ultimate chaos agent. She will do absolutely anything to survive and to keep her twisted narrative alive in her head. So Kyle thinks he has her under control. He thinks the threat is neutralized because he's stronger than her and he has her tied up. But it's not, because Patty somehow manages to get her hands back on the knife. Maybe she had a second one, or maybe the struggle loosened her restraints just enough for her to reach the blade she dropped. Honestly, the editing was a little clunky right there, so it was hard to tell exactly how she got it, but suddenly, she just lashes out. She swings her arm wildly, and she stabs Kyle. Right there. She stabs Kyle. I literally jumped off my couch. I was screaming at my television. Both of them, both Abbott men, just stabbed and bleeding out in the dirt. Kyle stumbles back, clutching his side, looking completely shocked. He looks down at the blood seeping through his shirt, and you can just see the realization hitting him. His knees buckle, and he falls to the ground not far from where Jack is lying. So now, Diane is sitting there in the middle of this literal nightmare. Her husband is bleeding out on one side of her, and her son is bleeding out on the other side. What kind of sick Shakespearean tragedy is this? What were the writers thinking? Who actually believes this is going to end well for anyone involved? Diane's screams were just echoing, and it was honestly hard to watch. She finally escapes her own hostage situation, only to walk into a slaughterhouse. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about how we even got here, because the build-up to this has been insane. Jack and Patty's history is just so toxic and dark. Remember just a few episodes ago when Patty was blackmailing Jack? She showed him that staged photo of Diane unconscious in a padded cell and basically demanded he sleep with her to get Diane back. She wanted to recreate the magic of the yacht. It is so gross and so disturbing. Jack was pushed into a corner. He was desperate to save his wife. And Patty just fed on that desperation. She never actually loved Jack. She's just obsessed with the idea of him belonging to her. And when her fantasies started falling apart today, when Diane actually escaped and Jack wasn't going to submit to her blackmail, her brain just broke completely. If she can't have Jack, nobody can. That's classic Patty logic. But stabbing him in broad daylight and then stabbing his son? That is a whole new level of unhinged, even for her. And what about Diane? Can you imagine the psychological toll this is taking on her? She spent weeks locked in that room by Markham, being told she was crazy, being gaslighted into believing Jack put her there and didn't want her anymore. She finally breaks out. She finally finds her son. She finally thinks the nightmare is over and she can go home. And then she walks right into this. Diane has done some terrible things in her past. Let's not forget she faked her own death and abandoned Kyle for years, which caused so much trauma. But nobody deserves this. Watching her husband and her child dying in front of her, feeling completely helpless to stop the bleeding, the trauma from this day is going to be permanent. I don't know how she comes back from this. Will she blame herself? Will she blame Jack for entertaining Patty's blackmail in the first place? The emotional fallout is going to be massive, and I bet it's going to drive a huge wedge between whoever survives this. And Kyle, oh man, Kyle. He has been trying so hard to be the strong one lately. He's been defending his mom. He's been working side by side with Jack and Jabot, trying to be the perfect heir. And today, he just lost it. When he hit Patty, you could see a different side of Kyle. A darker side. A side that maybe he inherited from Victor Newman's side of the family, let's be real. Summer's gonna freak out when she hears about this. Assuming Kyle even survives. I mean, obviously he's gonna survive. They aren't gonna kill off Kyle Abbott. He's a legacy character. But still, the medical drama next week is going to be intense. They are going to need so much blood. Does anyone in Genoa City even have their blood type? Probably someone random like Adam Newman, because that's how these shows always work, right? Someone you hate ends up saving your life. And where on earth is Detective Burrow? Where are the Genoa City police? This town has the most useless police force in the history of television. Jack and Kyle have been running around looking for Diane all day. Patty is wandering around with a giant knife stabbing billionaires. Markham is running a hostage situation out of a suburban house, and the cops are nowhere to be found. It's honestly insulting to the viewers at this point. Do they even have a precinct anymore? Or is it just a coffee machine and a desk? If Chance or someone doesn't show up soon, Diane is going to have to perform emergency surgery on the sidewalk using a twig and some hopes and dreams. And how does this fit into the bigger pattern of the show right now? It feels like everything is just exploding all at once. Over at the Newman Ranch, Victor is literally looting Nikki's estate while she's drugged up and thinks she's dying. Nick is dealing with Matt Clark's fake amnesia and trying to beat him up. And now the Abbott family is being slaughtered in the park. It's heavy. It's really, really heavy. Sometimes I wonder if the writers are just throwing everything at the wall because sweeps are coming up and they need the ratings. But this storyline feels different. It feels incredibly visceral. The image of Patty stabbing Jack and then turning that blade on Kyle is going to be burned into my brain for a long time. It wasn't just a corporate takeover. It was raw, bloody violence. I just don't know what to think anymore. I'm sitting here typing this, and my hands are actually shaking a little bit. I know it's just a soap opera. I know I've been covering this show for a while, and I should be used to it by now. But sometimes they just catch you off guard. I really thought Patty was just going to blackmail Jack, maybe get arrested again, and go back to the mental facility where she belongs. I did not expect a double homicide attempt. So, what happens tomorrow? We are going to get the ambulance scenes, the hospital waiting room scenes. Tracy Abbott is going to show up and just absolutely lose her mind. Remember, Trossi has been the one pushing Patty, playing psychological mind games with her in the park to find Diane. Is Tracy going to blame herself for pushing Patty over the edge? Oh my gosh, the guilt is going to destroy Tracy. She's going to think her meddling caused her brother and nephew to get stabbed. Let me circle back to Markham for a second, because I can't let this go. The fact that he escaped while Kyle was fighting Patty is just infuriating. If Markham really is Martin Laurent, and he's out on the streets of Genoa City again, Phyllis and Sharon are going to be in so much danger. The last time Martin had them, it was a psychological torture chamber. If he's back, and he's hiding behind the face of Dr. Markham, no one is safe. And the fact that he just slipped away while the Abbotts were bleeding out means he has time to regroup and plan his next move. I bet he goes after Phyllis next. And Patty, what is going to happen to her now? She stabbed Kyle, but is she still tied up? Did she cut the ropes with a knife before she stabbed him? The scene was just so chaotic. It was hard to keep track of the logistics of who was where. But let's assume she's still trapped there. Or maybe she runs off too. If Patty escapes, the whole town is going to have to go on lockdown. But part of me thinks she won't run. I think she'll just stand there, dropping the bloody knife, looking at Jack bleeding, and she'll just snap completely into a catatonic state. Because in her twisted mind, she probably thinks she and Jack are going to be together in the afterlife, or something crazy like that. She has completely lost her grip on reality. Anyway, I need to wrap this up before my editor yells at me for missing the deadline. I am just so emotionally drained by this episode. The writers really went there today. They took the Abbott family, gave them a brief moment of hope with Diane's return, and then just shattered them into a million pieces. Let's hope the paramedics in Genoa City drive faster than the police, because Jack and Kyle are running out of time. I'll be back tomorrow to cover the fallout, assuming I recover from this stress. You guys, let me know in the comments if you saw this coming, because I sure didn't.